Hello, hello, everybody. How are you doing today? It's been a busy day. We have gotten some great interviews so far, and we still have a few more to go with some really neat people. So I'm glad y'all are joining us. We've had big participation. Y'all have definitely been showing up and showing out. So that's been great. I just added a couple of free printables and definitely go back and check out the videos of our outstanding students and other things that we've been adding on the page when we get done with this interview. So right now I want to welcome Becky Garretson, who's the Executive Director of Eagle Forum of Alabama. They were really great. I attended their homeschool 101, their legislative 101 in Montgomery, February 4th, and it was fantastic. So she agreed to come to us today and talk to us about what it's like to get a bill passed. So tell me a little about yourself, Becky. You're a homeschool mom.
Yes. So I live here in Wetumpka outside of Montgomery. So it's really easy for me to spend a lot of time at the State House during the legislative session because it's like 20 minutes away. And I am a former homeschool mom, homeschooled my daughter all the way from birth to, learning starts right off the bat. And she is now has her third baby is on the way, and they are definitely planning to homeschool. And I really enjoyed your HSLDA segment at the beginning of your program today because they were such a great resource for us. And we had that legal covering if we ever needed it. And my daughter, even though her oldest is just 3, they're already signed up to be with HSLDA at this point. So it's great. And I am really excited to be here. I'm glad that this virus didn't cancel the program completely. It's nice that we're able to do this online.
Well, I know when I came to your 101, I've been paying attention to politics for a long time. I've always been, I'm going to date myself. And my first one was the first election campaign was the one, and I was about 9 or 10 years old, and I was just fascinated. It's definitely its own drama to watch politics. So I've been following it a long time, and I didn't realize how much is required to get a bill going, to get a bill passed with the committees. I wasn't aware of the committees and all that kind of stuff. So you're going to give us kind of an overview today with a couple of caveats that you're going to share with us about some things. But I'm just going to give you the floor and let you get going and tell them your stuff.
Okay, and we'll switch to our shared screen. That way everybody can kind of follow along. So Erin just wanted me to, I'm giving you guys sort of the abbreviated version of what happens at the State House during a legislative session. So we have, and I don't know if you need to move no, it all shows up there, doesn't it? There are 30 legislative days in a year, which we usually start in the springtime, but those 30 days have to happen between 105 calendar days. Erin, this may be a problem for us with this coronavirus, and our Constitution says that those 30 days have to be within 105 calendar days. So at the end of this presentation, we can go and talk more about this, but normally that's how it happens. Now, so the legislature comes in on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday during the legislative session. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays is when they actually do work, when they actually go and vote on things, and they actually are working in their little chambers, the Senate chamber and the House chamber. On Wednesdays, of course, they're also working, but they're meeting in committees and talking about bills and discussing bills in smaller groups. So that's kind of how that works. There are a couple of terms that you'll hear. One of them is gavel in. When they start their day, that's called, they'll gavel in at 9 o'clock in the morning, say. So that's a term I hear a lot. Another one is recess. When they break for lunch, or sometimes they'll break to have a caucus meeting. And so they'll call that a recess. And then when the day is over, they adjourn for the day. Pretty simple. There are 2 chambers, kind of like the federal government. We have a Senate and we have a House of Representatives. And our Senate is actually the upper chamber. They're the highfalutin folks, I guess you could say, the deliberative chamber. We only have 35 senators. You have to be 25 years old to be a senator. And then the House of Representatives, we have 105 of those, and you have to be 21. And if you'll look at the pictures there, this picture with the top where the House of Representatives, that Speaker of the House is the guy who runs the show in that chamber. And then down in the Senate, the lieutenant governor is the one who runs the show in the Senate. He does not get to vote. And if he has to be away for some reason, then the Senate pro tem comes in, and that would be the most powerful guy in the Senate, and just like the Speaker of the House would be the most powerful guy in the House. But that's kind of how that part works, is we have two chambers. And what's really cool is these pictures were taken from a little auditorium, or they call it the gallery, above each chamber. So when you come to the State House, you'll go to the 6th floor and you'll look down on the 5th floor, and that's where the House of Representatives is. And then if you go up to the 8th floor, you can look down onto the 7th floor and watch what happens in the Senate gallery. Or, I'm sorry, yeah, in the Senate chamber. All right, so what's going to happen now? I know there's a special bill that you guys are going to be talking about later, and that is the sweet potato bill, as becoming the sweet potato becoming the official state vegetable. So this bill was actually, it's a 3-page bill, and it's sponsored by Senator Butler. But first of all, every bill has to have 3 readings in the House and 3 readings in the Senate before it actually gets passed. So the first thing that's going to happen is we have our first reading. We call that when they drop the bill. And really what they do is they just take the bill and they go put it on the Speaker of the House's desk. And he has a little basket, and it goes in the basket. And sometimes they'll say they put it in the basket, or sometimes they'll say they dropped the bill. But basically just the title is read, and then it's given a number, and then it's assigned to a committee. Now, there are all different kinds of committees. The House has their committees, and the Senate has their own committees as well. But they each have health committees, education committees, judiciary committees, tourism, or maybe a committee, finance and taxation. So they're all different committees, and bills will go to a certain committee depending on its subject matter. So for the second reading, that's the first reading. All it does is it gets a number, and it gets assigned to a committee. So now what happens is this bill was assigned to, let me see what it was assigned to, for agriculture and forestry, I think was what it was called. And now what's going to happen is the sponsor is going to go to that committee meeting, and he's going to stand at a little podium in front of everyone, and he's going to talk about his bill. He's going to explain what it does, how much it's going to cost. This making sweet potato the state vegetable is not going to cost us anything, so he doesn't have to talk about that. But they talk about the bill, he explains it, and then the committee will decide. They'll talk about it, they'll debate things. They might say, I don't like this part of the bill, let's take this part out, or hey, let's add this to the bill. That's an amendment. So they'll do all of those different things in that committee meeting. They discuss the bill. And then someone is going to make a motion for a favorable report. And then another member will say, I'd like to second that motion. And then they're going to take a vote. And if that vote is the majority, it gets voted out, then what's going to happen is it's going to go on to its third reading. It gets put onto the calendar, and this is the daily calendar. Every day, new bills that go out of committee get added to this calendar, and they'll print one of these every day. I think, man, what a waste of paper, but they'll print one of these every single day. And so this regular calendar are all the bills that have passed in the House. And then the Senate this is the Senate one I'm showing here. The House has one just like this, and all the bills that have passed are here. Oh, wait, yeah. And then what's going to happen is that is going to sit in the Rules Committee now. And well, let me go on to the third. They're going to decide, hey, it is time for us to talk about that sweet potato bill. So it's passed out of the committee already, and so now it's going to be in the Senate, since this is SB 98, Senate bill. It's a Senate bill. So they're going to do it on a Tuesday or a Thursday when everybody's in session, and they're going to talk about this bill. And you'll have 2 people standing across from each other, the sponsor of the bill, and then another person who wants to ask a question or debate it. They'll do that. And after all the debating is done, then they're going to decide then they'll take a vote. And if it passes, then it's going to go to the next chamber. So it'll go down to the House, and it's going to start the whole process all over again. That's why it has to go through both chambers. And this is something I didn't realize. Well, I had known it, but I had forgotten. Those 3 readings that they have to have all have to be done on separate days. You can't have it introduced, dropped in the basket and in the committee the next day or that same day. It has to be 3 separate days. So that means a regular bill takes 6 days to pass. And that's why when you get close to the end of the session, if you didn't get your bill started early, you can pretty much forget it, because 6 days before the session's over, it's probably not going to happen, because it's longer than 6 days. All right, and then once it passes through the other house, it's going to go all the way. Once it's past that house, now it's both chambers. It's going to go on to the governor, and she will decide. She will sign it, and it will become a law. So that is basically what happens. Now I have a few more things to talk about, but you may have some questions that have come in, or you might have any.
Well, I was going to say, I know that what happens if even, from what I remember from our talk before, if even a period is changed, a comma is added, it all has to start over. Is that right?
Well, yes. It doesn't have to start over, but that would be an amendment. And even if just it's a simple word change, it can hold up a bill. Now, what happens is when it's back in the committee, the second reading, when it's being discussed in the committee, they can make changes there. But let's say they decided after they passed it out of the committee that they found something else they wanted to change. When it's being debated on the floor, they can add amendments at that time as well. And what happens is there's so much happening at the State House, but there is a group, the Legislative Service Agency. They're up on one of the upper floors. They're very busy in there, and they will take a bill that someone wants to change, and they will quickly change it and reprint it and rush it right back down to the chamber, and they'll have that bill ready with any changes or any amendments like that.
Now, you had mentioned to me before that this is a general overview, that sometimes things get a little crazier, so not going too far into the weeds. What does that mean? That it can get, that's not always this simple.
Oh, I should have thought about that. Well, what happens a lot of times is someone will have a bill. Let's just say it's a controversial bill. And once it goes through it might make it to the committee, okay? If it makes it through the committee, then it's going to go on that regular calendar. But every day, at the end of every day, the Rules Committee meets. And they look at every bill that's out there, and they'll say, which bills do we want to talk about tomorrow? And they'll pick the bills that they want to do tomorrow. Well, your bill may be a great bill, but someone on that Rules Committee or several people on that Rules Committee don't like it. Or lobbyists have been telling the Rules Committee, keep that bill in the basket. Don't pick that bill to come to the floor. And so a lot of good bills die in the committee, in the Rules Committee, before it gets put on that special calendar. I think that's oftentimes the way most bills are killed, is they just never get picked to come up on the special calendar to be debated.
Well, if you have a bill, so we kind of talked a little bit with Dan at HSLDA about this. So if you didn't catch that video, definitely go back and catch his video on this. But sort of while we've got you and the page you're about to show, I know is a great page. What is the best way, if there's one that you feel like it's something that's really important to you and you're seeing it stuck, if there's something that it seems to be going through, if it's going through well, do you just let it go? Is it still a good thing to write, email, call? What's the best thing? How's that?
Okay, a couple of things. One thing that I think is a great thing to have, if you can be there, if you can meet with your legislator face to face, or the sponsor of the bill face to face, or someone on the committee. Let's say, for example, we had a bill that was in the health committee this year. And we met with every person on the health committee to tell them personally about our bill, why it was important, why we needed their support. Because that committee is actually more important than the debate that's going to happen on the floor where everybody is watching. Most decisions are made during those committee meetings. So it's really important for you to not only it's great for you to be in on the early process before the bill ever gets to the floor, because you can also help put pressure on the rules committee. You go to the rules committee people and you say, hey, we really want you to pick SB 98. We are so ready for this sweet potato bill to come up. It's very important to us. And then, that helps it get out of committee.
And you're about to show us Allison, so you'll kind of show us where we can see these things and find these people?
Yes. So the best way, I have actually saved it on my computer, but for everybody else out there, I just go to Google and I say Alabama Legislature. And you will get a special little link that comes up, and it's Allison. That stands for Alabama Legislative Information Online. System Online, I think it is. Anyway, you can find who your legislator is. You can track bills. You can find if you want to have an overview on how the legislative system works, you can read everything. Everything you want to know is on this site. And when we do our Legislative 101 seminars every year, our good friend Lou Rivera, she specializes in this stuff right here, this website. She does a really good class on this. It can be a little complicated if you're not used to using it, but I just wanted to let people know you can track bills. And I just Google Alabama Legislature and it will take you to the site. And then you can see all the fun things you can do there. But I thought if I could just go through a couple of things when you want to talk to your legislator. Here's some do's and don'ts that we've put together. You always want to be if you can be. Legislators like to hear from their constituents. They listen more to their constituents than from people who live in a different part of the state. However, they do still listen, but you have a lot more pull if you're actually one of their constituents. So keep that in mind. Know your subject. Kind of know what the bill is that you want to go in and talk about. Kind of run it through your head before you talk about it. And then when you go to meet with the legislator, there are hundreds of bills that they are dealing with. And they don't have a lot of time to spend with you, and they don't want to hear a 20-minute version of why you want this bill passed. They want it short and concise. Give them a 3-minute elevator speech of why you want this bill passed and why it's important to you, or why you want a bill killed and why it's going to be harmful. You just have to be quick about it. Be clear, concise, and honest. Describe how it's going to affect you personally. And always assume that your legislator probably has no idea what you're talking about. Again, they have bills that they're sponsoring that they know a lot about because they've written the bill and they know a lot about it. But many of the bills, they haven't come to their committee. They're in someone else's committee. They don't even know about it until it comes to the floor, and that's the first time they've heard about it. So just talk to them like they don't know anything and keep it short and concise. Anticipate questions. Leave or send email, written material. Dress appropriately. Don't wear, shorts and flip-flops in your tank top. If you can help it. I understand if you're in it summer, it's getting hot and you're on a field trip. But if you're there to lobby a bill, of course, try to be professional. Leave your business card or your phone number, and always ask them, will you please support our bill? Or do I have your commitment that you will try to kill this bill? And then follow up with written communication as a thank you. Then some of the don'ts. Don't use form letters. You can use it sometimes like HSLDA. They'll send out, they'll warn us that a bill's coming down that's going to affect homeschooling, and they'll give us a little sample letter. If everybody just printed out that letter and sent it in, the legislators look at the letters and go, they didn't put any thought into that. Use that letter to write your own letter or to make a few bullet points. Don't confuse the issue by going in there and talking about 5 bills. Talk about 1 bill. Just get in and get out. Don't guess that they know everything, or don't get, if they ask you a question and you don't know, just say, I don't know, and get back to them. Don't become confrontational. You don't want to be picking a fight, especially with someone that you're wanting to support your bill or you're wanting to kill your bill. Just try to be professional. Take a deep breath. Sometimes these people are really passionate about an issue, and the sponsors really, or your legislator may be really passionate on the other side. But don't be confrontational. Don't tell them that you're going to get them fired and that you're going to vote them out of office and say all these awful things. You just do your very best. You're going to win them over by being nice. Of course, don't threaten them, and don't use inappropriate language, which I'm sure y'all, I don't think that's going to be a problem for anyone on here. The last thing that you can't see that's under my name is don't lie. Tell them the truth. Tell them what's really happening and why you care. You don't have to make up things about it. So what other questions, Erin? Oops, I can't hear you.
Sorry about that. I am a homeschool mom. This is a holiday for us today, and my son was chatting in the background, and somebody said they could hear him, so I was letting him know that he's being heard. So, yes. So we have somebody asking, what if we don't know who our legislators are? You were saying that's on Allison. Is it fairly easy to find?
Yes, it is. On the toolbar, there's a little tab that says find your legislator, and you just click that, and you can put in your zip code or your address, and it will tell you who your representative is and who your senator is.
Now, something I learned kind of the hard way is on the Allison page, they have their Montgomery numbers, but they're only in Montgomery at certain times.
Yes.
So how do you find their local numbers? Can you call them anytime? Do you need to kind of be paying attention to that? What's the best for that?
Yes. Usually they just list the Montgomery number, but they have secretaries. And sometimes a secretary she'll have 3 representatives that she's, kind of taking care of. So when you call, you'll almost always have someone that will answer the phone, and then you can ask them to pass your message along, and the legislator will call back. Sometimes if they have another office number, like they still work out of their office back, let's say they're like Sweet Creek here, one of our legislators, let's say he owns a car dealership. They'll give the number to the car dealership where you can still find it. So that's one of the ways. And that was it, right? How to find them? Yes. And emails, of course, are good. I find that phone calls seem to work. In person is the best. Phone calls are the next best. And then emails are the next best. And
definitely always, I know I've made phone calls with a lot of legislators over the past few months, and follow up with the email. Even if you talk to them in person, follow up with the email so they remember.
That's a great, I have found, and I think as more people are moving to online than years ago when people used to write letters, a lot of emails get missed. A lot of emails get overlooked. So if you don't hear anything back, email them again or call them. And I like you. It's good to double check.
Somebody asked, does it really matter when we contact our legislators? Is that important? When is the best time to contact them? Is there a certain day of the week, a certain time of the year?
If you want to see them in person, at the State House, like let's say you live near the Montgomery area, Tuesdays and Thursdays are the easiest days to find them because they're all usually on the floor debating bills and listening to the debates. And you can call them out. There's a page that is there. They use these children that come in as pages or sort of like interns for the week. And you can ask them, hey, would you go get Mike Holmes for me? I need to ask him something. And they'll take a note into Mike Holmes, and then he'll come out to the hall and you can talk to him for a few minutes there, or you can catch them at lunch. Wednesdays is when they have their committee days, and they're all going in a million different directions. They're all involved in different committees, and they're harder to track down on a Wednesday. So in person, it's best if you can see them on a Tuesday or Thursday. Otherwise, I call them all the time. I mean, Monday through Friday. Try to leave them alone on the weekends just to be respectful, but anytime is good.
There was something on the page. You can find pretty much anything you need on the Allison page. Oh, when the legislature is going to be in session. So when you want to go and you want to see them gavel in and you want to do that, that information is...
It's on that Allison page, on the home page. There's a little box that kind of comes up in the middle of the page, and it will say the Senate will be meeting, or the Senate will resume at 9 o'clock on Thursday. And the House will come in at 10 o'clock. They usually come in at different times, but it's always posted on that day. At the end of the day or early in the morning, you can find out what time they'll be coming back in. They don't always update the website as fast as we would like, but that's the best way to find it, is just to go to the homepage.
Now, what if you're stuck at home and getting to Montgomery isn't easy to do? Isn't there a place on the page that you can watch and hear from home?
Yes, there is. And across the toolbar, I think it's under resources. But yes, a couple of the committee rooms actually have microphones, so you can hear what's happening in the committee rooms, which is really great because they'll be debating a bill. And then the Senate, you can actually watch or listen. And the House, you can listen. You cannot watch. They do not have cameras in the House for you to watch live, but you can listen. And I have had the most fun on trips I've taken when I'm driving and I can't be at the State House for some reason, like I had to drive to Texas on the last day of the session last year. So I listened for hours, for like 8 hours, I listened to the last day of session in my car, and it was great because I could just picture everything that was happening. So a lot of people do like to listen from home, and that's a great way to do it. And you can do it right there from the Allison website.
That's really neat. That's really neat. We've watched some of them, some of the video too, and it's very, very cool to be able to watch that. So, one last question: does contacting them really matter to them? Does it make a difference?
Yes, it makes a huge difference. And I know when Mike Holmes comes on here in about 30 minutes, that is a great question to ask him how he feels about that. But yeah, legislators really do like to know. They want to do the right thing. They want to represent their constituents well, and so they really do like to hear from people. And I just want to invite people, if you want to know more about Eagle Forum and what we do, and we do have a Teen Eagle program, that you can go to alabamaeagle.org and sign up to be a volunteer, or just sign up to get our email alerts. During the legislative session, every Friday, I send out a weekly update on the bills that we're watching, where they are in committee, and if there's any action, like if you need to make a phone call, we really need your help to make a phone call. I give you all of that information. So every Friday, well, right now we're in shutdown, so there's nothing happening, but during the regular session, I am giving updates. You also might want to talk to Representative Holmes about the future of this year's session. I talked to him earlier this morning, and they did meet this week. They had a quorum that met at the State House. They passed a resolution that they will try to finish out this year. The legislature has one job. The one thing they are mandated to do is to pass a budget every year. And so far, we have not passed a budget. So the clock is ticking. Remember, we had that 105 days that we're supposed to complete this. Depending on how these virus numbers go, they may not be able to meet again, and no one knows what to do, because our Constitution mandates that we have to do it within that 105 days, and it also mandates that we have to pass a bill. So he may have a little more detail in that, but I am thinking from the writing on the wall that the session will probably be over. It's pretty much every bill out there that hasn't passed is probably done.
Well, I just added that to my list of questions to ask him. I'm so sorry y'all were getting feedback. I started muting it in between to make sure that nobody was getting any feedback. So for the next one, I'll make sure I'm muting mine when somebody is talking.
And Erin, we do have a Teen Eagle Facebook page.
Yes.
So be sure to, well, in the future, when you're talking about homeschoolers to be sure to go there. And they have a great program set up, and they learn a lot of really cool things and get to come to the State House and do some things. So Lori Herring, our Alabama director for Teen Eagles, is doing a great job.
If you go to alabamahomeeducators.com, we have under resources, we have legislative activities, I think is what we call it, or something along those lines. And we actually have a description of Teen Eagle and some links to their
great
stuff.
Thank you.
And contact information, all that. So if you go to alabamahomeeducators.com, what we will do is when this ends, this is actually going to post onto Facebook and be there for everybody, and the comments will keep going. So if you have questions, more questions, because you're watching this later, be sure to ask them. I will tag Becky in them so she doesn't quite have to sit on it the whole time, but you can ask more questions, and we will also post links to this. Lori, if you'll go ahead and post your links to Teen Eagle in the comments, that would be great. And if you want to post some links in the comments too, that would be perfect too. So if that's good, I don't think we have any more questions. Becky, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
I'm really excited, and I'm looking forward to what y'all are going to be doing next year. Hope it's live and online.
Yes, we have big plans in the works for next year, and we'll hope you'll join us again. So we'd like to. All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.